I did a research. I was comparing those who work in Lagos against those who work outside Lagos. I was looking at the telecommunication company and I was comparing their staff. I did across the entire staff, one of the big telecommunications companies. And I was just curious. I felt like you, that I'm sure people who work in Lagos, I think they are more stressed than those who are outside Lagos. Well, and my research actually confirmed it, that the people here were far more stressed than those outside for obvious reasons. Now, every day, stress is not just something that it's in the mind. Stress is something that is measurable. Stress is something that we see the effect every day. A lot of times, I get a lot of people walking to the clinic. They come to see the physicians, they come to see other consultants, and many times sometimes they are referred to me, because particularly last week I had a patient that he had seen a neurologist for about 2 or 3 years. He had had these complaints for about that period of time, and they couldn't really find anything wrong with him, so they referred him to me. And most times the reaction is always the same. Once they tell you to go and see a psychiatrist, it's like, is it that? Has it come to that? When you want to boil a frog, if you put, well, I know you don't eat frogs, I'm just saying, imagine with me. If you put a frog into a boiling water, it will jump out. But they say if you want to boil a frog, just put it in cold water and you start steaming it gently. Before he realizes, it's toast. But all the while, he just feels that, man, this water is good, this water is nice. It seems to be getting hotter right now. But before he's dead. I just did a long list here. Of course, it's not exhaustive. About the physical, behavioral, emotional, mental effects of stress. About 50 years ago, the only illness that was identified with stress was ulcer. But about 30 years ago, 1981, thereabout, we found out that there's an organism called Helicobacter, a bacteria actually, in the stomach. And of course, everybody now felt, because back then when you go to the hospital and you have ulcer, your doctor has to become a counselor, and it was not really something doctors like to do. But when they now discovered that it was actually Helicobacter that was causing it, it was a great day for doctors, because we don't have to talk too much anymore. Just give him the drug, give him the anti-ulcer drug, and it will get better. So they felt it was not really stress, it was actually an organism causing it. But much later, they actually now discovered again that Helicobacter, over 2/3 of the world's population has Helicobacter in their abdomen, in their stomachs. They now finally realized that stress actually reduces your immunity. It makes you more prone to fall ill. I believe everybody agrees with me. Yes. Yeah. You notice that when you are stressed, I was speaking with a banker recently. He was telling me that while he was still he's no longer a banker, but he said while he was still in the bank, that almost every month he will go to the hospital, and almost every month they don't find anything. But he trusts Nigeria doctors. Sometimes they just tell you it's typhoid and malaria, but they don't ever find anything. But he said once he left the job and started working on his own, he realized that he was not falling ill as often as he used to. It's just to show that the effect of stress is real. Today, science have shown that some cancers are related to stress, particularly prostate cancer for men. Science has also shown that stress can cause infertility today. Today, the thing just goes on and on. In the workplace today, people are beginning to see that, look, the effects of stress is real. It's affecting, there's a concept called presenteeism. We all know what absenteeism is, you don't come to work. But presenteeism, as the name implies, you're at work, but you're not really at work. And you see, the interesting thing is this: medicine as we know it today, or illness as we know it today, has moved away from infections. Those days, you have a lot of people dying from illnesses caused by infections. So today, it is more of the things that we do, or the way that we live, that is causing a lot of effect on our health. 75 to 90% of all visits to primary care physicians are stress-related complaints. In fact, I think it was in the 1960s, a particular health management organization noticed that a lot of their patients that visit the clinic, that used to visit the clinic back then, were stress related. So they did an interventional thing, and they noticed they reduced clinic visits by about 30% when they started addressing, bringing it to the primary care center and bringing emotional health things to the primary center. They realized that not too many people were going to the hospital anymore, and of course it makes business sense, because since many people were not going anymore, the money they were spending also reduced. About 80% on jobs accidents are stress related. Now, how does it really work? There's this response that is called the fight or flight response. Maybe you take an antelope now. A lion wants to attack the antelope. It gets into this response. The adrenaline shoots out. A lot of things goes through. The gonadotropins are acting up and all that. Particular hormone, the stress hormone, is called cortisol. All that is released. Now, the antelope takes off, runs, either it is killed or it escapes. But once it escapes, it gets to the point, it switches it off. I mean, that response switches off. You don't see an antelope today worrying that tomorrow I'll be chased by a lion, and it's worrying, seriously worrying. I seen sitting down somewhere and seriously worried. And another female antelope asked him, "What's going on?" He said, "I'm seriously worried that I'm being killed tomorrow." But you see, we are higher animals and we have become very smart. So you find us stressing over things sometimes that are not real. We're releasing adrenaline, we're releasing cortisol, and all these things affect your immunity. All these things, it also affects your healing process. Well, not everybody, but how many of you experience maybe when you are stressed, your skin, needs extra work to look smooth? That's maybe pimples and all that starts popping up, So all that, all that goes on because of the fight or flight response. All that is going on in our body. But the problem today, like I said, is that sometimes we enter this mood or this mode without necessarily having real stress. What's the key? We all cope with stress, that's the truth. It's not as if this is the forum that you will now learn about stress. All of you have been coping with stress in different ways. I mean, some of us, some ways are healthy, some ways are not so healthy, some ways are empowering. Just like you can decide to cope with stress by throwing someone through, but that may not be very helpful. So the key to stress management is being intentional about switching that button on and off. You feel the stress level rising and you become intentional. It's not just as if it's just because, you see, people don't just snap. You get into a situation and you snap and you're wondering, just because of this, because I didn't give you my pen, is it that bad? But it's not just that. It's been coming, it's been building. So it's being able to become intentional, become aware. Self-awareness is one major key in stress management. Now, I put this picture up because in life there are things you can control and there are things you can influence. And it's always important to be able to recognize what are within your control and the things that are within you that you can influence. If you have to sail from one point to another point, then you are maybe on this, what do they call this? Maybe a yacht, a mini yacht, I don't really know, but it looked nice, so I put it there. Now, you are going and the weather gets really tough. Then the individual faces the weather and says, "Oh, they said it was going to be sunny and smooth today. I really don't think you are being fair to me, weather. I really don't think you are being nice to me." Now, if he does that, that is focusing on something he or she doesn't have control over. All you need to do is focus on what you have control over. So it's understanding what you have control over. Stress management is about control. And like I talked about, I said what you can control and what you can influence. Many times you can only influence your environment, but most times you can control yourself. Because it was found that the more you spend at work, the more time you spend thinking about work outside work. And also basically now putting some stress management programs on ground. But it starts from big support from the senior management to be involved in it and saying that, okay, we want to put structures on ground that will help people to at least reduce things about conflict resolution, things about conflict, the way it is handled. I was dealing with a case like 2-3 weeks ago where for like 2 years, the man had never entered the office of his colleague in that workplace. But after I spoke with him for like an hour or two. He went and he came back with them. Oh, this is the first time in 1 year. So even conflict resolutions, things as also basic as meetings, holding meetings like you guys do, you know, they help reduce the stress in the environment.
Yeah, thank you. Please, round of applause for him again.